Glad all of you enjoyed it. I'm Ramya. Pai started off by talking about content marketing and how important it is. Before that, I just want to start by saying something that just occurred to me here. Since this is a forum of technology for marketing and advertising, I think that the most important technology for marketing is a story. Because marketing, at the core of it, is a conversation between a brand and a customer. And the unit of any good conversation is a story. A person will listen to you if you're telling a good story, and if it's a really great conversation, they'll start telling stories back. So I'm going to illustrate a few examples, and hopefully I wanted to do this through a storytelling mechanism, so I'm going to tell you a few stories. I think we've probably got more examples than we've got time for, so we'll stop when everyone's too hungry and doesn't want to listen to stories anymore. So this is going to start like a typical, one of the oldest stories we all know. It starts with Once Upon a Time. So once upon a time, there was a company called Deer & Deer, which is today one of the largest manufacturers of agri-business machinery. They make tractors. They started in the 1800s, and a few decades after they'd been in existence, they decided to come out with a magazine called The Furrow. This was not a sales brochure, it was not a list of the products that they sold. This was an actual magazine which taught farmers on how to be more productive in their business, how to be better entrepreneurs, how to make more out of what they were already doing. The Furrow turned out to be so popular that it continues to be in existence even today. So that's a really long time period, 1890s right down to 2013. The Furrow is also an example. This is considered the first example of what's now called custom publication. Custom with the sole purpose of entertaining, engaging, informing the customer. Not with the brand's agenda going forward, but purely with what the customer needs. In-flight magazines are another very good example of custom publications. I actually had an example of an in-flight magazine, but forgotten to carry today. This is another thing that few of us may recognize from doctors' clinics and even dentist clinics. These are the posters and that you see on the walls, the things that a lot of doctors have under the glass sheets on their tables. That one is from a dermatologist clinic, this one is from a dentist clinic, and this one you'll probably see in pretty much any doctor's clinic. Most of this literature is distributed to them through pharma companies. You'll notice you don't see any major logos anywhere. All of this is information to the end customer, and it helps the doctor/dentist as well. Yesterday, I in fact got into a conversation with a dentist and asked him, why would you put up material like this? He said, because it saves me the effort of having to sit and educate my customer, my patient, on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So that's content marketing, a custom publication. So a custom media is anything that builds a relationship of trust and loyalty. And the value of this is when I'm starting a conversation with somebody, not by saying that I want to party with your money, not by saying I want to sell you something, but by saying, who are you, what are you interested in, let's talk about this, what are your concerns. At the end of that conversation, if I tell them, hey, you know what, I have something that could help you, that person is likely to listen to me as a friend, not as somebody who's just out to push them to sign on the dotted line. So custom media does that very well. My second story, okay. Has anybody seen this movie? It's a really old movie called A Streetcar Named Desire. That's a very young Marlon Brando. There's a key scene in this movie, which is the one which I tried very badly to animate on this. I'm sorry I couldn't get the clip for you, but there's a scene in this movie where he takes off his shirt. The big revelation there was that men wore vests under their shirts in those days. And he took off his shirt to expose, himself in this glory. The point of this was that vest sales dropped considerably after this movie was released. Which means that one character, one single action in one simple scene in a very popular movie determined the fate of an industry for a while. Other marketers jumped in and began to take advantage of this phenomenon. That was something negative. This is an example of something that really worked for a brand. This is one of Hollywood's most famous icons. This is Audrey Hepburn from Breakfast and Tiffany. And what she's wearing is what is today a staple in any fashionista's closet. This is the little black dress, originally designed by Coco Chanel. The dress is not promoted in the movie anywhere. There's nothing anywhere saying that Audrey Hepburn wore this, so wear this. But the little black dress continues to be popular. It's survived all the variations of fashion and trends and all of this, because it was sold through a great character and a great story. A brand's personality can piggyback on a character's appeal. In this case, it was a character as well as an actor. A lot of brands have now taken that forward, and well, I don't want to say a lot because I don't think enough of brands are doing this, but a few of them, we spend a lot of time, I think, thinking about a brand's personality, a brand's voice, what does this brand represent. In a lot of ways, it's easier to piggyback ride on a key character that represents the same values. And if you tell a great story, then the audience is already relating to it and they've started relating to your brand that way. Which is why the little black dress still carries all the connotations that Audrey Hepburn's character carried. It's very classy and it's very stylish and it's independent and, well, the whole works. I'm faster than I thought I would. That's good. This is the Truman Show, which came out in the 90s, the movie. Has anybody here not seen the movie? Okay. In a nutshell, it's a 24-hour reality show about this one guy. He's been televised since the time he was born. He doesn't know that he's part of a gigantic television show. Everybody else in his universe is an actor, including his wife, his best friend, his neighbors, his boss. Everybody is an actor. Now, and the story goes that the show is popular worldwide. It's being syndicated across various different formats and channels. And everybody across the world is hooked on to all the little nuances of his life, whether his girlfriend breaks up with him or not, whether his boss is going to give him a promotion or not, what happens to the fight he had with his best friend, is he feeling well, X, Y, Z. The show does not cut anywhere for ad breaks, but the show subsists on all the products that are shown in the show. So this is actually one scene in the movie where his wife tells him, oh, you're having a headache, let me make you a cup of coffee. And then she says, brought to you by this coffee brand. And he says, why are you talking to me like an ad? And because in that bit of it, that's actually an in-film placement. The actual story goes on in a different matter, but why I wanted to bring this out is, we are probably moving towards an era where this is going to be a reality, where there's probably not going to be any ad breaks. And any kind of marketing messages that we need to put out will have to be embedded within the content that people are consuming. So this I thought was a very sophisticated and more recent example of in-film endorsement, in-film placement. I think what made it really sophisticated was what I'm calling story pollination, which is basically, there was a magazine, Verve, which wanted to make a bigger splash in India because it was already competing with Vogue and all the other fashion/lifestyle magazines. Dostana was due to be released at the same time. Dostana had a key character whose attributes fitted Verve's personality very well. So they wrote it into the story, and Priyanka Chopra's character is the assistant editor of Verve magazine. The Verve office got a lot of coverage within the movie, and there was a subplot in the movie where the magazine is being relaunched, and then she's coming out walking down a ramp, and there's the entire Verve logo in the background. Around the same time, the month that the movie was launched, Verve also brought out a special publication called Verve the Dostana issue. This actually is a little too small to read, I think, but this thing over here looks like a movie poster. It actually says Verve, a blockbuster magazine. It had a lot of content like this, things like how to get the Priyanka Chopra look in Dostana. So that was an activity that benefited both brands, and there was such a match between the two. Parmeshwari was the editorial director of Verve at that time, said we were looking for a platform that matched our brand's attributes and didn't do it in such a way that the brand was just this one little prop in the background. It was part of the actual story. So Dostana did a really good job of that, and I think it worked out well for both brands.
Ramya, sorry, the bad example of this is the Hermes bag in Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where they call it the Bagwati, and I think they probably brought down the image.
That's a bad example.
That's a bad example.
Yeah. So brands would tend to mess up there as well. In that case, I would think...
And even worse, sorry, this is not meant to be tweeted, High Design with Sridevi in that
English.
English. That's even worse.
I think those were examples of where the marketers went in with a very set agenda saying we want to get this much visibility for our brand. They didn't stop to think, is that visibility going to be beneficial to us or is it adverse? Every kind of publicity is not necessarily good publicity when it's happening in a story, because the story is giving you a larger context to it. So thank you, those are examples that add to my point. Advertorials are another older example of content being, marketing messages being embedded. Interesting point, when I was researching, I found this study that had been undertaken by a mail order company, where they sent out a set of marketing messages to two different sets of their customers. One set of customers received a typical advertisement, which was laid out in the typical ad copy format with the benefits laid out and a little bit of hype around it, and then the call to action. The other set of customers received the exact same message but laid out in an article format. So it read more like a magazine article. And guess what? The second set of customers placed 81% more orders. That's a huge jump. So this, for example, I was actually looking for a Reader's Digest editorial, but I couldn't find an image on that. Advertorial. Reader's Digest does a lot of advertorials for various brands. This one is an article about wine and all the things that you can use it with and the entire lifestyle. It's detailing the entire story of wine consumption. An entire lifestyle, a universe created around wine consumption, and you can see it's being pushed by the wine brand. But there's nothing about this particular wine is great or any such thing. So this is what we like to think of as customer inward communication rather than brand outward. You don't start off the entire conversation saying, this is my brand, this is what I represent, and I need XYZ number of people to get this many impressions and top of mind recall and all the standard metrics. Instead, you're saying, this is who our customers are, and this is what they want to read about, or this is what they want to watch. These are the needs that they have. Let's look at how we can fulfill these needs. Yes?
So another example, good example, the remake of Stepmom with Kajol and
yes. Oh, yes.
In that, the Cervical Cancer Society,
yeah.
in a basement for cervical cancer,
I see.
instead of breast cancer. Because breast cancer, a lot more work is happening in India, there's awareness.
I see.
Whereas cervical cancer, people don't worry about it,
Right.
so much. So they got an award for that also in MD's.
I see. In fact, the same movie also contained an example of bad content marketing because Yakult was being promoted by Kajol in the same setting, and Yakult is a probiotic health drink, and Kajol is a character who dies in the movie from a serious illness. I thought that was a really, really bad mismatch. You cannot have something that promotes health sitting in a story talking about a woman who's dying. So, a good example and a bad example. I think we are out of time. I've got a few examples, so should I run on? Okay. Let me just run through one more. Okay. The last one, yeah. So this is Dove. Dove is a company, a brand that's been doing a hell of a lot of content marketing in a really, really good way. Which one? Okay, we're not talking about Dove, we're talking about another example. So why don't you play the video?
Terry Bradshaw has given us amazing words of wisdom and
Can you
brilliant
hear?
online. Here's a book to live by on fashion, shopping, and of course, food. That's my money right where I can see it. I am my closet. Tell me, totally
Is it
broke.
audible?
Sometimes I would buy rogue instead of dinner. I just felt it fed me more. I fell in New York, so I decided that the more I purchased, the less they think of me as the American who fell in New York. This is the shopping equivalent of a lot of now. About the shoes. Well, it almost is. I have more substance to get all that. Expensive footwear. Hello. Here. This one has sale. Half off. Sweetie, I just spent $345 on a pair of overhead last week. This is not the place to be food. I'm talking about a woman's right to shoes. Oh my God! Mommy, Mary James, this one urban shoe. I love it too. Oh, the old woman who lived in her shoes. The fact is, sometimes it's hard to walk in single-digit shoes. That's why we need real specialists now and then to make the walk a little more fun. Here, thanks for Emma Power for inspiration. Make sure to check out Fashion City 2 in theaters May 27th. Thanks for watching. Back to you.
So, anybody who's seen the series would recognize all these. These are clips from the 6 seasons, and there wasn't anything from the movie, but there were 2 movies as well after this. The entire story, which engaged a lot of primarily women viewers across the world, carried a lot of messages about shoes. I think this show was single-handedly responsible for making shoes a very key, a hero element in a woman's wardrobe. Up until then, shoes were an accessory where you'd buy your shirt or and your trousers or your dress, and then go and pick up your shoes or your handbag to match. After this series, it became a point of I pick up a pair of shoes and then I figure out everything else that I can wear with it. Manolo Blahniks and Jimmy Choos were the two brands that got a heavy push from this series. So, yeah. So I think I'm done, and this is the end. Thank you.